Hi, Bill Henshaw again, your walking constitution out here on the San Francisco Peninsula. And today we have a very interesting issue on the proper use of 42 USC 1983. That most of you are probably aware, amazingly enough, is the main civil rights law that people use all the time to go into court and sue the bastards. And 95% plus get thrown out on the first motion to dismiss for a failure to state a claim. And that's true, because those of you that follow my videos know that not only does the 14th Amendment not exist, it never has. In that case, none of the civil rights laws enacted in pursuance of the 14th War Amendment exist. And yet, at one and the same time, I'm now proceeding. I have a pending federal default judgment in what looks like a 1983 case. But you read my take on jurisdiction and venue, it's unlike anything they've ever seen. And the position we're taking here is that we can prove that there are no states. Where you are isn't a sovereign, independent state admitted into this union. In that case, this is a big reason why there are no judicial courts known to be in existence. But look at Article 1, Section 9 and 10 of the U.S. Constitution that prohibit states and the federal government from passing bills of attainder, taking of life, liberty, or property without judicial process, namely including the trial by jury according to the course of the common law. And that's a right that remains in existence pursuant to inhabitants of territories and the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, but nowhere in sight in the jurisdiction you're living in now, or at least the one they think you're living in. Actually, the good news for us is we're domiciled in a state judicial district. They operate not only in a federal territorial possession, but as you'll learn from getting my materials, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. When they make service to process on you with your state abbreviation, CA here, and a zip code, you've been served for all intents and purposes in the District of Columbia. That's how this bullshit works. And it's time for it to stop. Way past time. And by the way, if they can't do effective service to process on you, no jurisdiction. There's that pesky U.S. Supreme Court again. You'll learn all about that. Send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. Now, what I'm doing, in effect, is pointing out the blatantly obvious fact that there are two different body politics here. And the way I'm going to do it, if I ever get in front of a jury, and I'm not going to, a classroom full of fifth graders will understand this, even if law school graduates don't. The body politic they have in your jurisdiction is comprised only members that owe their birthright citizenship to Section 1 of the non-existent 14th War Amendment. That was a secret agenda of the amendment that no one that ratified it was told about. Now, the good news for us is, notwithstanding that, none of them who ratified it had any authority to do it, at least to the extent it would change the sovereign body politic of the nation and republic and do away with the sovereign independent states. Even better news now is this looks like where the U.S. Supreme Court is heading, and have been for the last two terms, going into the third one starting Monday, October 3rd. I've seen things coming out of there I haven't seen in 90 years. You know, they're starting to act like an Article 3 judicial court, and that's good news for all of us. And John Roberts et al., tell the American people why you're doing what you're doing. They're going to love you for it. The restoration of the original intent and the federated republican form of government of defined and limited powers, while at the same time throwing out that much ballyhooed democracy we have: 3 wolves, 2 sheep, voting on what's for dinner. All you have to know about that is they have exactly the same system in Pyongyang, North Korea. The only difference is a much higher quote-unquote voter turnout, which is the last election was over 99%. What they don't tell you there, however, is that not voting is an act of treason. They probably just whip your ass out in the courtyard, shoot you, and that's the name of that tune. God, where are you people, Fancy Ngozi, Upchuck Schumer, Bitch McConnell? Why aren't you doing that here? Could you make that not only a crime, but treason, just like in Pyongyang? What's the problem here? Of course, the bigger problem for them here is that there isn't a lawful electorate anywhere in existence. And that means no elections, even if Congress could provide for elections in territories, which they can't do. Another beauty of an issue you learn about, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. And with my materials, you'll learn all about that and get up to speed on what the real deal is here. So it's just exciting, and more so with this 1983 case I just read. And it's a really strange split of justices. You have, I think, Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas in the quote unquote dissent. And two of the conservatives, Kavanaugh, who I think wrote it, and Roberts, in the majority, actually three with Amy Coney Barrett. It's that recent of a case. And I've been reading it very closely. I'll be happy to send you an annotated copy when I get through with it. Send me a request, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. And I'll concede I'm doing some reading between the lines here, as I often do with decisions, especially recent ones from the U.S. Supreme Court. But then I've been at it 40 years, and I've got a pretty good knack for doing some reading between the lines and see what they're really saying. So that's the exciting part. If we can make them, pay for it, and with this current pending 1983 default, if I get that one, that's going to go viral because that's the way we do it. We come in and say, well, we can prove there are no states, no judicial courts, no known federal courts. And with the Supreme Court ruling that the enactments of Congress have a strong presumption of constitutionality, and 1983 is basically the only remedy you recognize, you have to then conclude that what we would call a trespass ad armis by force of arms, a common law action, or malicious prosecution, another one of those common law actions, are readily cognizable within the meaning of 1983, even if it wasn't originally set up to do that. That's a hell of an issue. And I think it's going to carry us a long way here. And the good news for those of you who've already been screwed over, no matter what setting it's in, CPS, family law, criminal, you name it, doesn't matter. No statute of limitations, no exhaustion of any administrative remedies. As not only you never had a chance to be heard, because you didn't have any effective assistance of counsel. That's the only right they think we have, and it's, according to them, limited to a state bar association attorney, aka an unregistered foreign agent. And you sure as hell didn't learn anything in the mandatory public education system, just like I didn't all those decades ago. And I was right outside of Washington, D.C., where you might think it would have been a bit better off there. Not true. If I had known this stuff 50 years ago and given where I lived, can you imagine? But better late than never. And that's what I'm telling you. We can do this. No statute of limitations, especially on deceit, fraud, and treason. You're going to love it. This is the U.S. Supreme Court saying it, not me. And we can go in there and make them pay. And maybe a bit more than that. There's some issues I'm still working on, remaining to be worked out here. But getting the claims in against them is there. And I think with what I just read in a recent case I've been talking about here, we can get there and make them pay and set in forth a chain of events, that restores the original intent and that federated government republic of defined and limited powers. And that benefits all of us, our children, and our posterity. And that's why they can't beat us in front of a jury, because we're not there for the money primarily. Yeah, it's going to be a good chunk of change. I get that. What we want is changes in how the system does business. Go back to the way it was. I'm not saying that was ever a perfect government, only the best one ever invented. And we can then make changes from that base – consistent with the Constitution, not in contravention of it. I've talked on here a bit much, but that said, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. Subscribe, like the videos, get the word out. The sooner we cut out this divide and conquer crap they've been doing for way too long, the sooner we get the bastards off our backs. Thank you.